Enlightenment is different for women, or is it? Hello, this is Shores of Infinity with your host Chris speaking. Today we will look into the question if enlightenment is different for women. So, for women usually life is a bit different because they can bear children. And being a mother is very important for many women, for the majority of all women. So for many women, having and raising children, being a mother, will be a focus in their lives, usually before they shift their focus towards enlightenment. They might be always interested in spirituality and enlightenment, but the focus is being a mother, and most women really delve into the spiritual business after the children leave the house. It's not always like that. People don't misunderstand what I'm saying. It's not always like that. It doesn't have to be like that, but it's very often like that. And of course, there's nothing wrong with it. And there are also exceptions like Bernadette Roberts, who was always able to combine these two. Being a mother didn't stop her from being enlightened. I mean, she was awake already before she was a mother, but enlightenment happened during her mother time. Same goes for the mother, for example, the spiritual companion of Aurobindo. Same thing. So, being a mother doesn't have to stop you from enlightenment, and anyway, enlightenment happens whenever it happens. There's not much you can do for or against it, as Yuji correctly says many times. In general, your path to enlightenment will be different than the path of others. Everyone has his or her own path. No one will have exactly the same experiences and steps than another person. That's the weird thing. On the one hand, enlightenment is the same for everyone. On the other hand, the path is singular, unique. No path is like another. So there will be influences of culture, of gender, of biological gender, of cultural gender. There are only two biological genders. No matter what anyone says, there are only two, maybe three. But when it comes to procreation, only two. But there are theoretically an infinite number of cultural genders, as the Spiral Dynamics green people discover right now. So I don't know what's the count right now, 20, 26, I don't know. Anyway, those are cultural genders, and those will also influence your path. Anything, let's put it like this, in most countries, except the Scandinavian countries, you have a difficult time as a woman or as a member of these other cultural genders. In most countries, except the Scandinavian countries, you have an easier time in our culture as a man. This may also influence your personality development and later your spiritual development. Especially if you tell others about it, if you go public, like on a YouTube channel or write a book or something. It has always been, or not always, the last few thousand years, it has always been easier for men. That's why there are many more well-known enlightened men. It's not that men are more often enlightened, it's just they often dare to go public, while women and other suppressed minorities think twice or thrice to go public. And during the Middle Ages anyway, impossible, almost impossible. If then women published under male names. So quite a few saints and enlightened masters of the past might have been really women and just passed themselves on as men. For example, Sri Ramalinga in Tamil Nadu, I always suspected he might have been a woman, but who knows? No one knows. The same goes for religions, of course. In many religions, especially the three monotheistic religions, women really didn't have and still don't have an easy time. So apart from culture, religion, social gender, biological gender, what is the difference between the male path to enlightenment and the female path to enlightenment? There's really none. All the differences are man-made and depending on culture, gender, religion, and so on. If you look at the outcome, of course, I said before, the paths are unique, but that doesn't have anything to do with male or female. The outcome is always the same, and the outcome, part of the outcome, is a disidentification with cultural, religious, and blah 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 norms. So every enlightened woman I met, heard about or read about, they said all that their gender as a woman doesn't matter. Once you're enlightened, you're not an enlightened woman anymore, or enlightened man, you're enlightened. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman or whatever gender, because you're not identified with it anymore. The identification as a biological or social gender doesn't count anymore. It's gone. It's not important anymore. It's part of the ego. Of course, if you are a father or a mother, then you will always stay a father or a mother as long as your children live, who usually live longer than you. And that is part of your life, but not so much of your spiritual life, of your enlightened life. If you are fully enlightened, which means in measurable terms, above 700 on the Hawkins scale, in third tier Spiral Dynamics, above location 12 on the Finder scale, your personality and all social norms don't play a large role anymore. It plays a very, very minimal role. Maybe a few percent, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, I don't know. Probably about 1 or 2%. Not 100% anymore. Before it's 100%, and then it's 1 or 2%. A few percent anyway. It varies. And there might even be some people for whom it becomes close to 0% at some time if you live outside of society. If you live in the mountains or woods or desert or so on, you almost have no contact, then you don't need this 1 or 2 or 3% anymore. Then you can even go to 0%. Then you only enlightenment. It's not a person anymore who is enlightened, is only consciousness, awareness, oneness. And if there's total consciousness, awareness, and oneness, it really doesn't matter anymore if you're a man or a woman. Why should it matter? Or some other gender. It doesn't matter. It does matter on the way there to some degree, and the earlier on the path, the more, and the later on the path, the less. But once you're there, and you're able to maintain the 700 plus full enlightenment stuff, it doesn't matter anymore. And all enlightened women agree. Like, for example, Mother Meera. She was asked this question and she said, why should it matter? I don't identify myself as a woman because I don't identify myself as anything. At the same time, it might very well be that enlightened women have a special care of women, because women are suppressed in most countries in this world still, and they might help women a little bit more than men on their path. Also, it still seems to be the case that more men go public with their spiritual experiences than women. Women often stay silent. Anyway, most fully enlightened people don't go public. The two I know personally, they haven't gone public with it. They have not written a book or went on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or anywhere. Yeah? They don't feel the need to. We talked about this in another video, what Jeffrey Martin calls the path of freedom and the path of humanity. Some go towards the path of freedom and don't talk to anyone, they just stay by themselves. And some choose the path of humanity and want to share and help others also to raise their consciousness. And maybe because women are usually pressed into a caretaker role through their motherhood or social standards, they later don't want to be that anymore. Anyway, most women on the spiritual path, they go through a period of rejecting this stereotype of a woman as a caretaker. And they first have to find themselves who they really are apart from that. But later, when the Enlightenment, it shouldn't play a role anymore, but who knows, maybe it does. The fact is that there are less well-known women who are enlightened than men. But there are not less women who are enlightened than men. It's equal. It's just that for some reason men more often choose to talk about it publicly, or even to assume a guru role. But most often this is true for men who are not fully enlightened, but only awake or almost enlightened. There are anyway only a handful, always 5 to 10 or so, human beings who achieve the 700 plus. And most of them we don't know. We will never know because they didn't go public. But of those who went public, let me think. Only 3 come to mind, and on the top of my head here, and 2 are men and 1 is a woman. But only the woman is teaching. The 2 men only wrote books. So the woman I'm talking about again is Mother Meera, who clearly states that she's not identified with her social and biological gender anymore. So that was it for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for giving the thumbs up so that other people can find it. Thank you for those who joined me on Patreon, and thank you, of course, to those who have already joined me on Patreon and support this channel. Thank you very much.